And I kind of see Earth as a garden, and we are living in that garden. And just like the millions of cells in my body, they work individually, but they work together. We're also one with the Earth. We have a function. We're caretakers of the Earth. We're the only species that can move around and spread seeds and bring health to this planet.
You are listening to Veggie Doctor Radio, and this is episode number 152. Welcome to Veggie Doctor Radio. I am your host, Dr. Yami, board-certified pediatrician, certified lifestyle medicine physician, certified health and wellness coach, author, speaker, mother, wife, and human being. I passionately believe in the power of diet, habits, and mindset in sparking and sustaining well-being and joy in our lives. This podcast combines expert interviews and thoughtful monologues to explore plant-based nutrition, lifestyle medicine, parenting, mindset, and other exciting and fun topics. I hope that these episodes inspire you, uplift you, and equip you with the knowledge and tools to live your best life. Are you ready to get started? Let's do it. Welcome, veggie lovers. I hope that you are having a very plantastic day today. Well, in just a few days, we will be celebrating Earth Day. I love Earth Day for many reasons, one of which it is the anniversary of my practice, Nourish Wellness. I physically opened my practice on Earth Day 5 years ago, so super exciting, but also because I love using the month of April to talk about topics on sustainability, waste reduction, minimalism, all of the things that we can do to help our earth live and thrive longer. So I'm very excited to bring you this interview with a very special lady, Manju Kumar. She is the president of Brush with Bamboo, a sustainable oral care brand, and she is also the co-founder of the Sarvodaya Institute, a nonprofit dedicated to connecting people to soil, plants, and gardens. Over the past 10 years, her family company, Brush with Bamboo, has developed the leading brand of sustainable toothbrushes. Most recently, they launched the first toothbrushes ever produced using USDA Certified 100% Biobased bristles. So cool. As a farmer with 30 years of experience, Manju has developed numerous organic gardens and farms in Southern California. Hundreds of students have passed through her farm apprenticeship program, and she continues to consult for farms, businesses, and NGOs worldwide. And she just has some really amazing, wise things to say on this episode. I know that it's going to uplift you, and it's just going to give you that really good, warm glow, positive feeling within you. And she really keeps things really simple for you. We talk about how she became a farmer, why she's passionate about it. We talk about zero waste. What does it mean? What's achievable? What's realistic? We talk about how we can start reducing waste in our lives. She gives 3 things that you can start doing to reduce waste in your home. And she also gives us places to start for those of us that have never grown anything ourselves. She gives us 3 things that we can start with step by step so that we can learn how to grow plants. We also talk about some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're growing their own food and what you can start doing if you just simply can't grow your own food yet. We also talk about what her wildest dream would be for the world, and it's just so beautiful as far as what she wishes most people knew as well. It's just such a beautiful vision of the world, and I know that someday we will get there. So I know you're going to love this episode. Happy Earth Day. Next Sunday, I will also have a special guest, an eco-dietitian, talking about what that is and more tips for sustainability, particularly when it comes to our food. So veggie lovers, thank you so much for joining us today. And let's give a warm welcome to Manju Kumar. Manju Kumar, thank you so much for joining me on Veggie Doctor
It's
Radio.
such a pleasure. I am excited to be here today.
Well, I'm super excited about this too because, like I was saying before we started recording, I haven't actually had a food grower, a farmer on my podcast before. So I think there's a lot that we can learn from you. So let's start at the beginning. How did you become a farmer and why are you so passionate about it?
I can't really answer that, except I think the passion was inside me already. So I come from two farming families. My grandfathers on both my mom's side and my dad's sides have always been farmers, and I mean like landlord type farmers. My parents were farmers, and there's four siblings, and out of the four siblings, only me. I'm like the one that just was infected, like in a big way. So I think I want to say maybe, it was an inner calling that I listened to and developed. And then the closer and closer that I worked with the land and the soil, I feel like I started to hear her wisdom, and she started to guide me. And so my passion just grew and grew from that to where, every year I learn something new. So there's like an epiphany moment that happens almost on a weekly basis where, you learn that, who you are really. Like, we always question who we are and where we come from. And the closer you are with the land, the soil, the plants, the more you get to know who you are and where you belong and what your part is. I hope it
Wow,
helps.
that's so beautiful. It's so deep and philosophical. I love that. Well, tell me about your childhood. Whenever you were a little kid, did you grow up helping in the farm? And, it was all around you with your grandparents and your parents. How was it when you were a kid?
So, I grew up in India until I was 11, and I knew my grandparents had farms, but I never really went to any of them. I just went, I think, right before I left India. I went and visited my grandfather's farm on my dad's side, and I loved it. It was awesome. And then when I came here, my parents, they always, whenever they had land in the back of their house, they always farmed. And I don't know why, but like my parents were chemical farmers. They believed in the green revolution and using pesticides. But for somehow, I always felt that the closer we are to eating food in its natural form, in the form that Earth delivers it to us, I just always felt that that was better for us. And I think slowly and slowly over time, that's what we've come to realize. That's what everybody is now aware of, and that's what's proven, and that we need to eat real food. Not that's adulterated or boxed or packaged or, fresh and local and in the season. So when I first got married and I moved to my house, I don't know, I started to do things that just came to me, like I would gather leaves, and I would not throw away my green waste. And it was way before I actually learned why it was good for us. But I think, probably seeing my parents' garden probably influenced me the most, and just having a piece of land or that I could care for, it really kind of triggered my journey into living more sustainably. So
Whenever you had your first house and you did your first garden, did you feel pretty confident about it and how to do it, or were there a lot of bloopers and did you make a lot of mistakes at the beginning?
absolutely. I had no idea what I was doing. We did things all the time, made a lot of mistakes, and learned from the mistakes, and from observing. I would say more than anything, learning by observing, what worked, what didn't work. And of course, the internet and the the web is like a huge source of knowing. But I would say the person that totally catapulted me into where I am right now, or got me, like planted that seed in me, I met her by chance. I've always loved to go to gardens, and so there was a opening for a free entry to go help out at a garden here in LA. And I didn't know. I just wanted to go to the garden for free entry, and I ended up learning about permaculture, and I was blown away that healing or gardening could be so simple. That it wasn't as laborious as the double digging method and the traditional methods of growing food that we were taught by Western. I think the book is Western Gardens or whatever, like that whole Western philosophy of growing things, that it didn't need to be that way. It didn't need to be that difficult. It could be a lot easier. And so had a lot of bloopers and learned through that.
Wow. So even from the beginning, you started realizing that I don't necessarily have to do this the way that everybody else is doing. There's a different way. There's an alternative path.
Yes.
And in some ways, it may be easier and it may be better overall.
Yes. The one thing that I really believe in is when you hear the truth, you know it. And that's what happened with me. So, I was doing all these other alternative ways of growing food. But then when I found this, I knew like this was it. And I was super excited about it. So yeah, inertly, I think when we hear the truth, we know it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you explain what permaculture means?
So permaculture is actually a very ancient way of growing food. It's existed, pre-industrial farming. It's also called Vedic farming. It's also called, I think, natural farming, no-dig farming, no-till farming. And basically what it does is it understands that the soil is a living thing. It's the womb. It's a womb of the earth. And when you care for the soil, what you do is you increase the life in the soil. So the life is full of the soil is full of life. There is tiny microbial, types of life, like there's mycelium and fungi and bacteria. There's just all kinds of microbial life that we don't see, but it exists. And it only exists in soils that are living. And the soil only comes alive when it's covered and it's fed. So if you go into a forest, you'll see that the soil is always covered. The leaves are always falling. The seeds are always falling. And nature is always planting seeds. And it's not tilling. It's just putting layers and layers of food on itself. So the tree itself, I'm just going to take a little story which I like to tell everybody. If you look at just the tree itself, it's a very circular system. It captures the sunlight, turns it into energy through its leaves. It also, through its root system, picks up nutrients that are in the ground. And again, it deposits all these nutrients in the leaves, and then the leaves fall and they feed the soil. and they break down and they feed the microbial life in the soil. And then that microbial life helps the tree again. It's like the gut system. We have a gut system with thousands of microbes. We're always talking about the microbiome nowadays. Well, the soil is also a microbiome for like the plants. And so this life then helps uptake the nutrients back into the plant, so you have nutrient dense food. So if we were to cultivate and practice a method of growing food that is closer to what nature or what earth already does, we get better food. We increase diversity, we increase health, and that's what I'm trying to share with the way that I live is, I realize that the cities are always going to be around. So why not reforest the cities? Why not grow as many trees as possible, as many, perennial plants as possible, and, regreen the whole thing. Like, let's create lungs of the planet everywhere. And it's not that difficult to plant trees. And trees are fairly hardy, depending on where you live. There are trees that are acclimated to that area, and you can go ahead and choose to, plant those trees and be a part of the regreening of this planet.
Yes.
So
yes. Oh, I love that you shared that. And I love how you even went there where my mind was going, which is how similar it is to the gut and how important we've placed all of these bugs that we have inside us that outnumber us by a factor of 10, how important they are. And we're realizing the importance of how we need to feed them and help them thrive. But what you're saying is the soil where we're eating our food is the same way. Like, it's a living thing. It's not, dirt isn't dead. Dirt has an entire community of millions and bazillions of different organisms in it that helps give our food the nutrients that we want, that is good for our bodies, and then it just completes this whole circle of life. It really is. It's just like this huge philosophical thing, is it? It's just like so beautiful. Yes. Wow, it just like kind of blew my mind there just a little bit when you think about it.
Well, if you think about it,
no, that's so important.
If you think about it, like what you just said, it's the life that's above the soil that supports the life below the soil, but the life below the soil does the same thing for the life above the soil. So it's like the circular system, and we cannot neglect or dishonor either one of those. Like, we have to respect this circularity and know that, we're united together. Together is how, we create this circle of life and health. So we're both important, the life below and the life above. We support each other.
Oh, so amazing. Okay, it made me think of something really a little bit different. Okay, you may have heard of this before, but I just want to throw it out. See if you've heard of this. It's a little bit apart from farming, but since the pandemic, I've been working on my will and just my wishes, just because it makes you think about mortality and death and all of this. And as I was like trying to decide, okay, well, how do I want my body to be taken care of as I die, and looking into all these things, you can now compost yourself after you die. Have you heard of this?
I've heard of it.
And so I live in Washington State, and they have this human body composting center in Seattle. And I know that they have I'm sure that they have them in California, but it's kind of cool. In 30 days, you can go from like being a human body to being dirt. Kind of amazing.
It is amazing. Well,
all right.
Somehow we forget that we are made of earth, right? Like, yes. They say the earth is 5 elements, and if we look inside us, like, that's what we are. And I like to think of us, really, we are children of the earth, because if you look at it, we are made of the elements of the earth. When we are in this body, we require the elements of the earth to be healthy. And then when we leave, we return back. So, and then when we return back, we actually rejuvenate, when we're composted. Like, it's the best way to return, because now you are providing resources for the next generation to thrive. So I think it's great that they have this. It's lovely.
Yeah, well, me too. I think that's probably, and it's cheaper than all the other options, and
good.
It's more sustainable, which takes me to the other question is zero waste. What does it mean to you? What does it mean overall, and what does it mean to you, and why should we even care about this?
Well, zero waste, when we first thought about the idea of zero waste, it means, like not creating any waste that cannot be returned to the earth, that cannot be composted, right? But in our culture, the way we live, the only people that I think could be truly 100% zero waste would be indigenous tribes that live in the forest and don't use any modern contraptions, right? That's the only way to be 100% zero waste. And here, in our modern civilization, I think it's very different for all of us based on where we are, in what part of the country, or what part of the world we are, even what part of the country we are, and what's available to us. So, there's many countries that are able to be a lot more zero waste than we are, because they haven't fully, packaged everything. And, they still do a lot more local growing and trading, so I think it's different for all of us. And I think that we cannot stress about what we cannot do. So I think it needs to be, it's like, use somebody else for inspiration. Maybe you thought of something that somebody else hasn't thought of. But then also, use your own imagination, and, look around you, see what's available for you. You might be able to do more than other people. And of course, I think in the end, we need to look at our surroundings and see what's possible as far as reducing waste. So, and using things that will be able to easily return to earth and become dirt, soil.
Yes. And I agree with that too, that most of us in the modern world, there's not going to be any perfection in this area. There's some things that are beyond our control, and everything is packaged. I mean, now they're putting individual wrapped bananas in plastic and stuff like that. Yes. So, there's a lot of things that might be beyond our control. But since you've been doing this for several years, is there some tips that you have for people that are starting out, trying to at least reduce the amount of plastic or waste in their life? What is the so-called low-hanging fruit in this area that you can offer my audience?
Well, some of the things that I started off with, and it wasn't even when the zero waste movement started, it was way before. And it was also because it economically made sense, is to give up things like paper towels and paper napkins, and, use cloth napkins, cloth rags, also, just to take your waste. And if you happen to have a yard, even if you don't know how to compost, you can just literally dig a hole in the back of your yard and then just put it in there. And lately, I've gotten this composting bin, that just sits there. It's it's literally this would be like a bucket where its bottom is open, and I put a lid on top, and I just literally throw things in there. And because it's open on the bottom, the microbes and the worms and everything are constantly breaking it down. So I'm returning, my resources back to land. So if you have even a little bit of space and any kind of like bare soil, it's very easy to return, the green waste back to the soil, not have it carried away. So like those are some of the basics that I started with, trying to think. And then cooking as much as you could possibly, cook. It's better to cook simple meals than to go out and buy in packaging, and being okay with washing dishes. Just like really simple stuff is like the low-hanging fruit, which I could go on, but I think people can figure it out.
Yes. And I think the most important concept is that it's all about habits, right? Like we used to buy paper towels and it was just like a habit. Like you just buy paper towels, you just have paper towels, you use paper towels. And then one day the paper towel ran out and I didn't have any more. And I'm just like, this is probably a good time to switch. So I just did it right then.
Yeah.
I already had a few like hand towels we could use and I ordered a few more, and it literally was a habit we changed overnight.
Yeah.
And nobody complained. It was like the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
It's like I thought it was going to be so hard,
right,
but it ends up being part of our routine and everybody values it.
Yes.
And so sometimes it's just a habit. Like you think in your brain it's going to be like this really hard switch, but it may not be as hard as you think. One thing that I also started, I haven't been brave enough to compost myself because the first time I tried it, it was a disaster. I did everything wrong and I created all kinds of bug problems. But my city has a composting service, and so they come and they pick up my scraps, and they have a farm, and so they feed it some to the pigs and some they compost themselves. And so until the spring starts and we try again, I want to try again to do my own compost pile, but this time I'm going to make sure I have the right information so I can do it right. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things. It's just like you have to be willing to try new things.
Right. But bugs are a part of life. So I think one of the things that we have to be okay with is bugs. There is no species that exists right now is a mistake. They all have a role, and most bugs are decomposers. So there is one method of composting where you have very few bugs, and that's called hot composting. And that's just basically, you don't need any kind of a bin for it or anything like that. You need a pitchfork, and you're basically layering green and brown materials, kind of like a lasagna. Mm-hmm. So you'll make a little hill like this, and it'll be nitrogen, carbon, nitrogen, carbon. Your nitrogen is all of your wet stuff, green stuff, high in nitrogen, which is like veggie peels and coffee grounds, and this information is available online. And then the brown stuff will be things like leaves and wood chips. They're brown looking materials, except for the coffee. And you just layer it up, and the last layer is what you do. You cover the green material. It's the green material that attracts a lot of bugs, and you cover it, and what happens, it starts to cook. And then what you do is you turn it as often as you can. The more often you turn it, the faster it breaks down. But the hot composting method has less bugs. Any other method, you will get bugs. And you can also just bury, like I said, just literally dig a hole somewhere, throw in all of your green waste, cover it with dirt, then again throw in green waste, cover it with dirt, and just fill it up like that. And that has less bugs. But bugs have a purpose.
Yes, I totally get it, and I'm vegan, but the thing is, I had it right next to my bedroom,
That's, yeah,
and
probably not the right
I did it
place.
wrong because I put it like in this container, and so it didn't, and I was trying to do the hot composting thing, but it was like right next to my bedroom, and then you know what came
What?
is those earwigs.
Yeah.
Okay, so oh my God, the earwigs! Oh, there were so many inside my bedroom.
Oh,
They were
no.
everywhere. They're in my shower.
Oh,
They were
my God.
everywhere.
Oh, my
So
God.
I definitely messed up. I love the little bugs. I just don't want them all in my room.
I agree with you
So I
there.
have nightmares of like earwigs
Crawling
going
in
in
my
my
ear.
ear at night. Otherwise, I will save them. But there was just too many earwigs,
Yeah.
and
Don't definitely
wasn't
put it
cool.
near your
Wasn't cool.
bedroom.
I made lots of mistakes, but now I'm gonna try a different method. I think it'll be more successful this time.
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay, well, let's change gears again and talk about growing our food, because there's a lot of people that have never, ever, ever grown their food.
Right.
And you're so experienced. You can grow all kinds of stuff, but there's people out there that have never tried anything. So what tips do you have for someone who's never grown their food and feels like so intimidated? Where can they start? Are there any easy places to start?
There are. A lot of us, when we start, it's overwhelming, and because we end up starting with vegetables. So the vegetables are like they're like the princess and the pea story. They're like the most challenging. You don't want to start there. You're better off starting with things that are more hardy, like herbs. Herbs are hardier and they're easier to grow. So you can do things, herbs that you like to eat. Could be rosemary, could be thyme, could be oregano, could be basil. Like, it can start off with herbs. And the second thing that I recommend is you start off with trees. And even if you only have a patio, you can grow trees in fabric pots. They come in all sizes. So you can even do a 30-gallon pot. And there's lots of trees that you can grow in pots, and they're much easier to grow. They'll give you a lot more confidence, and then you can, as you start to understand how to take care of it, of plants, you'll get more confident, you'll get more experienced. And then I would say, move to things like growing salad and growing kale and Swiss chard, perennial vegetables. Perennial vegetables are easier to grow. You've got garlic chives, you've got onion chives. There's just a lot of perennial vegetables that are really easy to grow, and it'll give you the confidence, and get to know, the plant's nature. So those are easy ways for me. Nowadays, that's what I'm recommending, is like, don't start with, like vegetables, because then you'll get discouraged. Oh, like they're just too much of a princess. And
Yeah.
it can be hard on you when it gets attacked by bugs, and then you're distressed. And so start with herbs, start
I
with
love
trees.
it. That's really good tips. And I've never tried to do this before, but I know that with herbs, you can also start like on your windowsill and things like that. Like, is it something that you can just start in a small pot?
Yes.
As long as you have access to light somewhere through a window?
Yes, you can start. There's a lot of herbs that are so a plant. All plants have different requirements because they've grown up in different types of conditions. Some can tolerate a lot of sun, sometimes, some not so much. So some tolerate a lot of water, some not. So you've got drought tolerant plants, you've got plants that love water. So you have to look at your place. You have to look at, the soil condition. You have to look at like what is the weather like in my area. I live in Diamond Bar, and our farm is in Pomona, and so even though we're only 10 minutes away, I'm on a higher altitude and it's a little bit warmer and I have a different microclimate. So I'm able to grow things like mangoes and lychees and guavas and papayas and bananas, and I can't grow any of those things 10-15 minutes away on the farm.
Wow.
But at the farm, I can grow things that like cold weather because it gets cooler over there. So I can grow stone fruit, I can grow mulberries, I can grow figs. So it's like you have to kind of see, what is the nature of the plant, where am I living, how cold does it get here, so is it a desert that you're living in, or are you living, in a very rainy part of the world? So you have to choose your plants according to where you live, and then you'll have more success.
Yeah, that's so wise. And I'm jealous that you can grow mango in your backyard. I'm originally from Panama, so oh my gosh. And I live in a desert, so there's not going to be any mango growing here.
Where exactly are you again?
So I live in central Washington. It's a small town called Yakima, which is a heavy agricultural area, but apples and cherries and peaches and blueberries, those kinds of things. So a lot of things do grow here because we have so much sun.
And
but
chill.
Of course, we have to bring in the water. We got to bring in lots and lots of water to do that, But it's very interesting. What do you think are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they are starting to grow their own food? I know you've kind of covered some of it. But.
So the biggest mistake is that people forget that they are very much like plants. So plants have the same requirements that us. A lot of times we'll buy a plant and we'll put it out there and maybe we'll water it. We don't think about feeding it. We think that it'll survive on its own, and it's not that case. So they're just like us. They need, food on a regular basis depending on their nature. They need water, they need sunlight, and they even need companionship. I was just listening to a YouTube or a TED Talk recently where it's been proven that, trees, they communicate with each other, and that even trees, they take care of each other. So let's say there's a bunch of trees in the forest, and maybe one tree is not getting enough nutrition, the other trees will help out, so they have an energy exchange going on over there. So plants need companionship, and that's why there's this whole thing about companion plants as well. But they're very much like us. So think about fertilizer as food. When you get a plant, it's just like getting a dog or a cat. It's a living species. It's a living thing. So think about, how it needs to be, what kind of water needs it has, what kind of food needs it has, and then you'll have more success if you put it on like a regular diet, just like, you do for yourself. So I think that's the biggest, I think that's the biggest thing, is understand that they have needs just like us and give them that support.
And I think when I was younger, I used to kind of be like most people, in that you buy a plant, you water every once in a while, and like, oh, it'll be okay,
Yes.
And then, but they always died, of course.
Yes.
No surprise there. But now that I've learned a little bit more, I have some house plants I started growing this last year, and I name them. I name all of them, and I talk to them.
Nice.
And they're doing much better now that I actually regularly water them and make sure they have sunlight. So,
yes.
Wow, it makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
That's true.
So
makes a huge difference.
I think, and it is, I think we do assume that plants can take care of themselves because we see so many plants that are kind of taking care of themselves, right? There's weeds and things that grow even when we don't want them to grow. But if you want to help a plant thrive, you do have to pay attention to its needs.
Yes,
so
yes.
That's very important.
Yes. And we just...
So there's some people that may... Oh, go ahead.
We just have a different constitution, They are hardier and require less care, but our cultivated plants um, need a lot more care.
Yes, yes. Great tips. So there's some people that just aren't ready or aren't able to grow their own food right now. What are some of the things that they can do to increase sustainability and decrease food waste in particular?
I think, shop at your farmer's market if you have farmer's market. The other thing, because some people don't have land, and that's an issue. I think if you don't have land but you have the interest and the time, then get together with a friend or a neighbor that maybe has, because a lot of times, like for me, for instance, I have a yard and I could use some help. Sometimes it's overwhelming to take care of, like, I have 80 fruit trees here, and even picking the fruit and taking care of all the plants can be challenging. So you can always find, I think, a partnership with somebody to be able to grow things, and it's very, very therapeutic to be doing that. Like, it's very therapeutic to be in the garden. So yeah, just as far as food waste, as long as you're composting, I don't consider it food waste. But yeah, there's the whole, don't shop when you're hungry, and the normal things. But I would say the biggest things is, if you can, partner up with a farmer and grow, help them out, because good farmers are really hard to come by, and they really need your support, because farming is a very hard profession. You're at the mercy of the elements a lot of the time, and so it's good to support them so that they can have a viable business and be eager to do more of it. So support the local food movement as much as you can, and compost as much as you can.
Yeah, I love that, because a lot of places have these garden co-ops and community gardens and things like that, where you can have a plot or you can help other people, and you kind of sign up and take turns taking care of it and tending to it. I think that's all really great. And yeah, I mean, I think I forgot about just even reaching out to local farmers and asking what help they need, or if, I will always volunteer, though, to eat the food. So that I can sign up for right away. So if you have extra mangoes, you want me to come pick them and eat them, I can do that for sure. But no, I think that those are all great ideas, because the more we support them, the more viable their businesses are. They can stay around longer, have more access to organic produce and delicious seasonal produce. So those are all great tips.
And there's one more idea that I want to put out there. I live in the suburbs, and there's a lot of people that live in suburbs, and they have a lot of land, but we really haven't thought about, like, just creating a community garden in our own, on our own street. In Indonesia, in Bali, even within cities, they have created villages, so people within the neighborhood get together, and they promote the arts, they promote, they do, like, a lot of their religious ceremonies together, and it's like a little bit more communal feeling. And we don't have that here in the US, and I would just like to see neighborhoods become a little bit tighter, like get to know each other a little bit more, and maybe even plant 2 or 3 trees in the front yard, where you say, hey, these trees are out there, help yourself, whatever you need. And you can actually organize to where you can say, okay, I'll grow lemons and, oranges, and maybe you can grow apples, and maybe you can grow, papayas, but you kind of are jointly growing in your front yards for each other. Because you can't, when a tree is loaded with oranges, you're not going to eat them all. Mm-mm. And so if you had them in the front yard, like, it would be easy for you to share if you are in unison and you come together, and you do it, as a community. Like, it'll just make a tighter community, and I think, reduce so much of carbon footprint, not having to go to the market. You would just walk down the street and, pick some lemons off of somebody's house, or get some oranges from, another place. I would like to see that happen within neighborhoods. So it's just an idea I'm throwing out there.
There's so many reasons why that would be beneficial. I'm really passionate about lifestyle medicine and well-being and longevity and living long, healthy, happy lives. And there is some research to show that people that tend to be closer to their neighbors are happier and live longer lives, And so I think whenever we think about things like the blue zones and connectedness and trying to come together, there's so many reasons why that's beneficial. Like you're proposing, it's going to be great for our carbon footprint. It's going to be great for I could just imagine kids walking down the street and seeing the fruit trees, and they're like, hey, I'm hungry. I'm going to get an orange rather than coming and opening my Cheetos. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, there's so many reasons why that would be amazing. It just sounds so wonderful. I would love also to see something like that happen. I think the first step is each one of us having the desire,
yes,
and start talking to our neighbors and be like, what can we do together? Do we want to start this trend? Do we want to start a movement,
yes,
to help make neighbors and neighborhoods closer and, yes, grow food together?
Yes.
So beautiful.
Yes.
Well, that brings me to a question that I wanted to ask you anyway, which is, what would be your wildest dream come true for our world?
That we return more to, an indigenous village-like community. Like, that would be my wish, is not to be so industrial and not to be so separated, and then to focus, on what is really going to make you happy. I think part of the problem right now is, especially, with what we call the civilized world, is we have this greed and need to accumulate much more, like, than we need. And so we're constantly pursuing money. I mean, like, how much money can a person like Bill Gates use in one lifetime? Like, what is the point of having that as a role model for living? Like, you want somebody that's more balanced. So I think that if we can return to a more communal and a more village and basically, to see Earth as mother. There was nothing wrong with the indigenous people worshiping Earth and worshiping trees and worshiping the sun. I mean, these are all life-giving parts of our existence. Mm-hmm. This is what keeps us alive. So why not worship them? Why not honor them? Why not respect them? And why not live in respect, with each other? So that would be my ideal.
Yes. Oh, I love it. It's beautiful. And you're right. We have lost a lot of respect for the earth.
Yes.
We have seen the earth as something that we can just use, yes, for our own benefit, without thinking of how to give back or how to take care of her, how to preserve her so that she can continue to give to further generations. And I think, there's some good and bad with it, right? I mean, as a society, we've made so many strides. I mean, just look at what we can do, the technology we have, the ability we have to keep people alive that would have died hundreds of years ago. So I think that word that you said, balance, is one of the most important. Is, yes, we've learned a lot. We have science and all of these things that we've discovered, but how can we also help preserve this earth that we depend on? Like, we depend on the plants and we depend on the sun. We depend on these things. We can't exist without them. So it's very important. What do you wish more people knew?
What do I wish? I mean, that's kind of going to go back a little bit to what I just said. They are Earth. You are Earth. You know, I think you're so intimately tied to Earth and to soil and to plants and to each other. One of the hardest concepts for us to grasp is we are one. What does that mean? Like, it's very difficult. We are one, you know. It's impossible to grab unless you look at Earth and you look at you in the Earth. And I kind of see Earth as a garden, and we are living in that garden. And just like the millions of cells in my body, they work individually, but they work together. We're also one with the Earth. We are yes. We have a function. We're caretakers of the Earth. We're the only species that can move around and spread seeds and bring health to this planet in an incredible way. Like, if we decide to heal this planet, we will do it in leaps and bounds. But we are her. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
So beautiful. And you're right. I think what we saw with the pandemic was just really eye-opening when we weren't all flying everywhere and driving everywhere and out everywhere, how quickly some of the waters cleared up and the pollution went down. So that allowed us to see that we have more ability to help heal the earth, and faster than we ever thought possible.
Yes.
You know, because we just hear all of these doomsday, just really grim statistics that almost just make you feel helpless, like there's nothing you can do. But from seeing that, it makes me believe that we can make an effect way faster than we ever thought we could.
Yes.
But it requires all of us to come together and start making those changes together.
Yes.
So
exactly where we're at.
For addressing that.
We don't need to go save the Amazon forest. We can create one in our neighborhood.
Yes.
So, like, think local and then act globally for the well-being of everybody.
Oh, I love it. What personal habit are you most proud of, and why?
What personal habit am I most proud of? Gosh. I want to say that I like to allow. I don't like to take credit for whatever comes out of me. These are not my words. These are words that I reach in my heart for. And so I like to think that these are mother's words. This is me, maybe me coming, me saying what I see and feel in connection, to being grounded to the earth. Like, I think that I don't like to take credit for what I'm saying, because I'm allowing the energy to flow through me and give voice to what needs to be said and heard and felt and done. So I would say that's what I love. And that
that's so beautiful.
I don't like to act from fear. I don't like to act. There's a couple of things that we fear a lot. One is death, and the other one is loss of money. Like, there's fear of lack, and those are very they're very challenging, and to rise above it is takes a lot of effort to do. So
yes, I love that. No, I love how you see yourself as an instrument, right? That inspiration is flowing through you, not from you.
yes,
And I think that goes back to your saying of we are all one. If we're all connected, then that's true for everybody, right? Like
yes,
we're all one energy, we're all connected.
yes,
We are all divinely inspired in that way. And I agree with the fear thing. I think especially now we have realized how much fear we have. I'm a pediatrician, so I'm a doctor, and I see parents in a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear, and what the problem with fear, there's definitely a right place for fear, and there's sometimes that fear can be helpful.
yes,
But the problem with fear is that it can block us. It can kind of stop us from being able to think clearly.
yes,
It just convolutes our thoughts, and then we just end up being paralyzed. We feel like we cannot make any right choices. And so especially when it comes to parenting, I feel that for the most part, fear can be a hindrance to helping your family, to helping your children to make those choices, habits and behaviors for your family. So I think that that's very wise of you to say that.
thank you.
Well, Manju, this has been so great. I know that my audience will learn so much from you. So please tell us where we can connect with you.
So right now I'm on Instagram as Zero Waste Farmer. And I am also, we also have a company called Brush with Bamboo. So they also have a handle on Instagram. I'm not really very happy with Instagram. I think social media is becoming a little bit too controlling and obnoxious. So I am looking at Clubhouse as well right now. I am on Clubhouse, but I have not been active on Clubhouse. I'm just observing right now, but I think I'll probably start some kind of a platform over there as well. And it's very interesting, informative format that I'm looking at. But yeah, right now Instagram, Zero Waste Farmer. And
yes, I definitely have gone through the Clubhouse addiction phase.
Okay.
For sure. I really enjoy Clubhouse. It's really fun. Just different way of meeting people and connecting with others. And so I think it's been really great. So I'm sure I'll see you on there.
Awesome.
I'll connect with you on there.
Awesome.
But for now, Zero Waste Farmer on Instagram. And tell me a little bit about your company, Brush with Bamboo. I read briefly about it, but tell me a little bit about it yourself.
Well, I think like around 2013 or so, we were watching a lot of plastic documentaries, and we were really concerned about the plastic that we were exposing ourselves to, because the first thing that we put in our mouth is a plastic toothbrush, and we know that there is toxic chemicals that are leaching into our mouth. And so we tried to find something, an alternative, and at that point there wasn't any. And so my older son and one of our friends who lives in China, we got together and came up with like a bamboo toothbrush. So funny thing is, in ancient China, they used to have a bamboo toothbrush. The first, aside from using mizwak and neem sticks and plants, because originally we used plants to clean our teeth and use them as natural brushes. So, but toothbrushes are so easy. Like, it's just so easy in our world today. And so, we came up with the alternative to the plastic toothbrush, and now we're coming up with alternatives to other plastic products. So we have a hairbrush, we have a comb, we have tongue cleaners. So we're just coming up with different types of, as the company grows, we're coming up with different kinds of products that will replace plastic products. And we look at making products that are without any toxic glues or varnishes. We really pay a lot of attention and detail. Don't cut corners, and get all the correct right testing and certifications done, so that we know that we can offer a really good product to everybody that they can feel safe with.
Yes. That's so amazing. I feel like the hardest room in the house to cut down on waste is the bathroom.
Really?
I feel like the kitchen's not too bad. Once you start going through the kitchen, there's so many things available, so many other ways.
Right.
But there's so many products in our bathroom, from
Yes.
our toothbrushes to our toothpaste, all the products women use for their hair and their skin, everything.
Yes.
Plastic,
Yes.
So that's one that I've been just slowly trying to change, because when you realize that it's overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, look at how much plastic I have in my life. It's just so much. And then you replace it, constantly replacing, and just thinking about all of it in the landfill. It's like, oh, wow, that's crazy.
Right.
Thank you so much for having this company and for thinking about these things, because it takes innovation, it takes time and attention to detail, just like you were saying, for us to do things differently so we can start turning the tide
Yes.
in our waste and in our health, So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking.
Well, Manju, last task I have for you is to leave us with one call to action. What one thing can we do this week to improve our lives?
Go to your local nursery. Buy or adopt yourself a plant baby. Bring her home and learn to take care of her. Even if it's just in a pot, just learn to take care of one plant baby. And that will be a really good start.
I love that. This is one of my favorite calls to action. Go adopt a plant baby and learn to take care of her. That is so beautiful. Manju, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate all the wisdom you have given us. It's such a beautiful message, and I know that my audience is going to love this. Thank you very much, and I hope that you have a very plantastic day.
Thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share what I feel. It's very heartwarming when I can share. So thank you for doing what you're doing and having this platform and sharing these messages to people so we can all uplift ourselves. So yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you.
It's a true honor. It's a true honor as well. Thank you so much. Hey, veggie lover. I hope that you loved today's episode. Will you take a second and do me a huge favor? Please subscribe to my podcast so that you never miss an episode. You're the reason I'm here, and I want to share it all with you. Thank you for listening, and have a plantastic day.